Welcome to another Executive Conversation hosted by the Center for Executive Succession at the Darla Moore School of Business. I'm your host, Anthony Nyberg, and today we are thrilled to bring back one of our alum, Joe Waring. Joe is the CFO of Evening Post Industries. Evening Post Industries is a private investing and holding company that primarily takes controlling interest in companies in healthcare, information technology, education and training, and marketing services. Thank you very much for joining us. As an alum, it's always a great thrill for us to have you back on campus, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I'm happy to be back and share anything that I have that may be useful for someone else.
So one of the things that's really interesting about your experiences is that you were actually a finance person and then also a CHRO and now a CFO. Can you say a little bit about how your prior experiences helped you in that CHRO role?
I was very fortunate to have had a very generalized background. I went to law school, never practiced law, got an MBA, and kind of came out and was trying to figure out how I could apply myself in a way that maybe would provide value for someone. While I was in finance, I was exposed to quite a bit: corporate strategy, asset management, pension kind of funding, and retirement schemes. And when I came over to HR, I didn't really know exactly what I was going to be doing or how I could help, but it was the blend of those experiences that allowed me to kind of jump right on in and quickly pick up not only the subject matter of HR, but then how I could provide value to my company.
So can you say a little bit about how HR can use accounting and finance, or what tools maybe can really help that function do better?
I think HR, particularly the modern practice of HR, is inextricably linked with finance. Benefits now are incredibly expensive, as we've seen on health insurance in this country. The country's become more litigious, so you have more exposure as far as legal, and obviously the legal matters tend to stem a lot from employment issues. But what I really see is understanding the rules of the ball game, how you influence things that have monetary implications.
And so can you also say then a little bit about how the HR, your experience in the HR side, has then helped, if it has, with you now being CFO?
At the time, I didn't know that it would have as much of kind of a influence on my career, but I think there's no better way to learn how to maybe pull the strategic levers in a company than to actually know the employees of the company. So when I was in HR, I worked with all the key managers. I know most of the employees. I understood their compensation philosophy. I understood their benefits philosophy. I understood the issues that kind of troubled the employees about either acquisitions or divestitures. So I was able to kind of not only anticipate those as a CFO, but then really work to allay those concerns.
So this is really interesting because you may be the first person in history to say that having that HR experience has benefited your being a CFO. Is this now something you would advocate for people that are even going up the finance ranks?
I would say my experience as a CHRO was invaluable and has made me 10 times more valuable to my company now being a CFO. All the benefit structuring that we do basically in-house. A lot of what we do, we work with captive insurance vehicles for kind of I don't want to say outsourcing risk, but how we lay risk onto different carriers. I don't think I would have understood that if I hadn't worked on the HR side. There is no way or really magic sauce, I think, for many companies outside of their people and who's ultimately executing whatever strategic vision they have. So knowing the managers and knowing how to engage with them and kind of convey what the financial ramifications of the decisions we're making, I think HR literally was the conduit for me to be able to do my job.
Can you point to anything, any examples of how maybe decisions would be different, or different kinds of decisions, or even just the process that would be different now that you've had that kind of exposure that you just talked about?
3 years ago and this past year, we did a benefits survey that I had asked to be performed. I think it sounds really common sense and basic to say, what is it that you want as an employee of this company that's going to make you the best you can be? But when we did it, I was able to kind of take the data and then say, okay, now I can see how the monetary implications really are coming to bear. So I took the data from what employees told me they wanted, and then I went and re-sliced the benefits to kind of match those expectations. I think if I had been a CFO without any HR experience, I maybe wouldn't have understood how creatively to do that. It would have been very easy to follow the dogmatic roadmap that most CFOs follow, that benefits are benefits. But for us, I was able to personalize the benefits in a way that I think has gotten great feedback.
And then you think that then leads to greater engagement with employees, greater commitment, greater performance ultimately?
I do. Our company is a family-owned company, and we sell ourselves as serving our communities and being family-owned. And the way that I kind of pitch that message is through things like benefits. So I was able to come back and say, we listened to you, we heard, we care, we do things differently than other groups, and particularly for prospective employees, I sell that. I sell that when I'm hiring people into accounting or tax, and I think it's a crucial competitive advantage.
So your company is so diversified. I mean, you're pulling in new industries, new companies within industries, et cetera. Can you just talk about some of the challenges associated with, maybe even just how do you do it? How do you keep on top of all of these really different industries?
I think first it starts with humility, not overestimating what I think I know or what our management team thinks that we know. We've been very good at hiring experts on different business lines as and when needed, but really it's kind of keeping the core ethos of the company, that family-owned aspect of we are here to serve the communities in which we operate. That is a little bit of a balance when you have 4 different business lines to figure out the commonality and then give them the room and the autonomy to operate, but simultaneously keep the commonality of the business, the wider business.
So is it that commonality that's helping you get the synergies to make all of these things work together?
I think what we've been lucky at is hiring good people who want the ability to operate, incentivizing them correctly, and then getting out of their way. And what I do is I basically try to remove as many obstacles as I can and then put in the key parameters in which they operate.
That's also really interesting because when we think of real conglomerates that are busy buying up companies in different industries, we rarely think about that it's the people that's going to make that difference. But it sounds like that's what you said does make that difference.
Our company has operated since 1896, and I think the real reason behind that success is that we've been able to attract and keep good people with integrity who are good business operators. And ultimately to do that, anyone can pay someone whatever the market rate is, but really a lot of people want the ability to operate and create and influence the path that their company's going on. That's what we focus on. It's tended to work for us, and hopefully it continues in the future.
So I imagine that one of the keys then, since you're saying that the people really matter, one of the keys when going out to purchase a new company is evaluating the talent that's there, and probably, I assume, especially the talent at that executive leadership team. Is that a fair assumption?
Definitely a fair assumption. Okay. I think we're at the point now where we've built up all the platforms that we have, so we have the key kind of senior leadership team. So it's not quite maybe as necessary where we integrate everyone from the acquisition and say this person has to succeed. But what I think we built is now we have an identity. We've got the senior leadership team, and then in each acquisition, ideally we would bring on everyone from the team and slot them into the place where they're best able to succeed. But I think our senior management team now is right where it needs to be.
Do you have thoughts on how you even evaluate an external leadership team like that?
We had to do it when we were building up our hospice group. We had to go and actually find a management team who didn't have a company to operate and then figure out together, kind of collectively, the asset that we wanted to buy. Really, again, it comes down to, I think the one paramount factor will be integrity. And obviously you want someone with passion, but you want someone who's going to run the business as if it is their own. And that really is a difficult thing to find. Now, we've talked before about compensation philosophy. Obviously, it can be different across different business lines, what metrics or incentive schemes work. But really, I think it's the fact that a person is going to get to come in and run their own business, which a lot of the bigger companies maybe don't take the same approach.
So one of the things that seems to be an ongoing debate about is the kind of the value or the relationship between strategy and the execution of that strategy. And in my naive perspective and understanding of conglomerates like yours, I kind of assume that execution carries a lot of weight in that.
Yeah, I think we every year or every couple years, we'll do a 5-year roadmap like other companies and say this is where we want to be and these are what the margins should be or what we think the obstacles are going to be in the way. But ultimately, day in, day out, it is execution. It's identifying problems. Obviously, it's not just sales, it's the efficiency in which you operate.
So are there things, again, that you think really drive that kind of execution, that real excellence of execution?
I think it's data, getting better at understanding the environments in which you operate. So on the hospice side, it's always trying to understand how referrals happen, just like any other kind of business environment. How do patients get referred? What's the engagement like? How do you identify or anticipate when someone may be referred? Those help create efficiency. Then you've got the administrative, more execution-based themes like Medicare billing. How do you properly and accurately bill the government, and compliantly, of course. On the other businesses, I think it's pretty simple, where we're trying to figure out what the input costs are and then what the sales cost is going to be, and then strictly manage that throughout the course of the year.
So how do you even go about understanding a business, right? So you're purchasing new business. You've mentioned hospice a few times. That seems like a really quite different business than what you had been in before. Mm-hmm. Do you have suggestions or steps that you go in to really help you analyze and understand a business and then to figure out how to execute really well?
We have never skimped on resources as far as advisory resources. The bankers or the business brokers help you to identify an opportunity, or maybe a management team. But for us, the lawyers and then, whatever the external consultants may be, who help us to understand the ramifications of the business in which we're getting into. But really, at the end of the day, it's having the team, the corporate team, the chief operating officer, the president of the division work hand in hand. A lot could get lost in communication, and that's really how we learn, is the corporate team works directly with the division president or their controller or chief of finance. And then the chief operating officer is kind of like the symphony conductor. He oversees the rhythm.
So back in your MBA days, I'm sure they were busy saying you need to find your expertise, really find that core competence and to excel. Can you say a little bit about what that would be in a situation where you have so many different companies in so many different industries?
So I would personally disagree with the, that kind of thesis that, you need to find something to specialize early. I think my career has been totally one of being a generalist and then being able to adapt and learn. And then at some point the themes start to tie into each other. So I originally didn't know what I wanted to do when I came out. I was fortunate enough to get into a general management training program that gave me exposure to many, many different financial kind of subjects. But then ultimately you figure out how to apply those. So when I came back to Charleston as a CHRO, or first Associate Director of HR, then CHRO, I think all the themes that I kind of experienced over my career were starting to play out, from legal, finance, a little bit of labor law, employment law. So I would disagree. If somebody said you need to specialize, I think that what you want to do is get as much exposure to different themes as you can, and then naturally see how they tie together.
I'm always a fan when someone debunks a little bit of MBA folklore, so I appreciate that. It has really been a great treat to have you. Thank you for coming back to campus.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
You just listened to another executive conversation. Today, Joe Waring of Evening Post Industries shared his view on how HR needs to be a strategic partner with finance if companies are to achieve strong and sustainable financial success. On behalf of all of us who are associated with the Master of Human Resources program and the Center for Executive Succession here at the University of South Carolina, thank you for joining us.